Hello, welcome to Sound and Fury Book Reviews. As usual, I'm Tina. Today I'm doing a book review of Descendant by Tanya Huff. This is a cozy horror book. It's coming out April 1st, 2025 from DAW. I received this art from NetGalley in exchange for a fair review. A charming, funny, and very Ontario-centered novel, Descendant is a cozy Canadian love story with a demonic twist. What's it about? Generations ago, the founders of the idyllic town of Lake Argan made a deal with a dark force. In exchange for their service, the town will stay prosperous and successful and keep outsiders out. And for generations, it's worked out great. Until a visitor goes missing and his wealthy family sends a private investigator to find him and everything abruptly goes sideways. Now, Cassidy Pruitt, town baker and part-time servant of the Dark Force, it's a family business, has to contend with a rising army of darkness, a very frustrated town, and a very cute PI who she might just be falling for, and who might just be falling for her. And if they can survive their own homegrown apocalypse, they might even just find happiness together. Yes, cozy, cozy. I'm going to start this off by saying that I love Tanya Huff. If you follow my channel, you know this. Her Confederation novels are one of my favorite sci-fi books and inspired me heavily in how I craft alien detailed species in my own writing. So when I saw this book pop up on NetGalley, I let out a very dramatic, like, oh, this sounded right up my alley, and I love her. So I was totally on board for that. My favorite, she has a whole bunch of fantasy books too from like the 80s and 90s. But yeah, my favorite one of hers is, oh, they're up here. Can't get them. So this is the start of the Confederation series, and it's a military sci-fi, but it has a lot of like queer characters and a lot of really fun aliens. Anyway, I'm not here to pitch this book that came out in like 20 years ago. I will say, though, to get this out of the way, to prove that I'm not just Tanya Huff biased, the book is not perfect. The story's a little predictable, and the stakes weren't high enough for me. I think more focus on the world building, perhaps before Melanie's kind of POV started, would have made it a bit stronger. The love story, and this is a preference thing, and I think if you follow my channel, you'll know what I'm going to say. It's very much insta-love, which I am not a fan of. It is very much like the epitome of insta-love. They see each other across the room and they are both in love with one another. The small amount of tension between them arises not due so much to the miscommunication trope, thankfully, but more like an admission of the truth and one gets mad when the truth is revealed kind of thing. So I guess kind of miscommunication, but it's more just like kind of like Aladdin, you know, like he doesn't tell her all the truth, that kind of thing. It wasn't the most interesting romance plot to me. I am more of either like a yearning or a enemies to lovers banter, you know, that kind of stuff. So for people to just see each other across the room, be attracted, go on a date, and then have sex, I'm just like, it's too real life for me. Like I'm doing that. I've been married for 10 years. Anyway, I did think they were a cute couple though, and I liked them both enough individually as people to want them to get the girl, if only for their own happiness. So it's not like I disliked their romance. I just found it took almost too much time out of the plot, that I was less interested in that aspect of the plot than I was in the other stuff going on. So it's more like almost like a balance thing for me. Moving on to what I love, which is pretty much the rest of it. The characters are very fun. We have Cass recently come into her role as one of the conduits of the Eldritch entity living out of the town, and Melanie, a school teacher laid off for speaking up for trans kids. Melanie needs money and accepts a weird job from an older lady to investigate the disappearance of this young guy named Travis. She's not a PI. I guess the back cover has to like somehow explain it, but she's not really a PI. Anyway, that's the reason she goes to the town. Cass is trying to figure out why the young man sacrificed himself and what that means for the town. So all of this happens in the first couple chapters. I'm not spoiling anything. The story moves at a languid pace, but that fits with the cozy theme. I kind of glanced at other reviews because I kind of do sometimes to see if I'm, you know, off my rocker on certain things. And some people were complaining that it took too long to kind of like, that the pacing was very slow. I actually kind of liked that aspect of it. I thought the love story was too long, but I thought the rest of it was fine. The rest of the town is full of fun characters who aren't deep, but they're quirky. You know, there's this witch bookstore owner, a 40-year-old man-child who antagonizes Cass like a brother, who is somehow not like, I liked him actually. There's Alice, whom I won't spoil, and there's a cute little demon creature and a grouchy hotel owner. There's just a whole bunch of like stuff, and there's a lot of queer characters in it. It's a very queer-focused and inclusive book, which I like too. Huff has a certain style to her writing that might not appeal to everyone. She's more about describing situations than getting deep into characters' heads. The Confederation books are like this, and given she tends to write action-heavy stories, at least in the books that I've read that she's written, that might be where this comes from. I personally like her style, but it might be a bit jarring to some people. It's just very kind of like, not surface level, but like very focused on kind of the external rather than the internal. Even though there are internal thoughts and people are wrestling with things in the novel, it's just kind of the way she does descriptions and things like that is it's almost like abrupt, and I don't know, I think it's fine. I really liked the setting and concept of a town making a deal with an eldritch entity and all that that entailed. I don't really want to get more into it, as it's fun to kind of experience it as you go, but the plot is fun. There's a bit of a mystery and there's a twist I sort of suspected, but it didn't go in the way I kind of thought it would. It made sense though, and how everything tied together was well done. It just takes time getting there. It is a cozy, it's kind of, I guess, I talked about this with another book recently where cozy sometimes lacks tension, in that if you're too serious, you lose the coziness. And I think that's kind of one of the issues with the subgenre, is that it's a hard balance to make. And I think that's why Travis Baldry's books worked so well, is because he did a great job of keeping the momentum going. With this one, I wouldn't say it stalls out at any point, but I can see why some other reviewers said that it was slow moving. So there we go. But I really liked the town and being like immersed in it. So I was like, no, this is fun. It's kind of just like hanging out in a small town on the weekend. That's kind of the feel you get from it. As I said, Huff writes a lot of action books, and while there's really only one in this book, it comes with a climax, and it is a doozy, and it's very fun. The climax is great. Lastly, the thing I loved most about this book was all the references to where I live. Of course, this is extremely subjective. I live in Ontario. I'm not as far north as the book is set, but I vacation up there. I love Northern Ontario, and the book is just peppered with jokes and references about, Ontario, our culture, the traffic in Toronto, Tim Hortons. I found it so fun, as normally when books are set in Ontario, they're set in Toronto, almost as if nowhere else in Ontario exists. So I love that we actually barely saw the city, and most of the book is set outside of the city. I have done the drive that Melly does in the book many times. I just recently was stuck on the 400 at Barrie. All of these things were so incredibly fun that for me it overshadowed some of the other lackluster elements. It's just full of like funny kind of jokes and references, and I think that might put people off too, because it is it just feels like Ontario, and if you don't live in Ontario, it's like when people, what was I reading? Like, there's this one N.K. Jemisin book about New York City, and there was so much about New York, but I'm like, I've been to New York like twice. Like, I don't know anything about it. I don't care about it. Like, so I was like, I'm not immersed in this because I can't picture it. Or like I read another book where it was set in like California, and like that was like such a big part of the book. But the only place I've been in California is LAX, and I've been to Nipton. For like 20 minutes to get a coffee on a road trip. So like for me, like I didn't find that alluring, where with this one, because I know the settings so well and I'm kind of like in on the jokes, it really worked for me. So I mean, I guess I probably didn't have to explain that, but I don't know, it's my channel, I can ramble on if I want to. Overall, while it's not my favorite Huff novel, I really enjoyed reading it. I thought it was super cozy. I would love another book set in Lake Argan, actually. But give me some more banter and less insta-love. Like maybe more of a Craig and Torin, from the Confederation series, if you will. Something like that a bit more. Anyway, thanks for watching, and totally check it out.